Oggy, a gentle blue cat, cherished peace above all else. His perfect day involved a soft sofa, his favorite slippers, and a good cartoon on TV. One sunny afternoon, everything was just right. The house was quiet, the birds were chirping outside, and Oggy was lost in his show, a blissful smile on his face. Life was good. But then, a scent drifted through the air, a scent so sweet and irresistible it made Oggy's whiskers twitch. He sniffed once, then twice, his eyes widening with curiosity. He followed his nose, his slippers shuffling on the floor, all the way to the kitchen, and there it was. On the kitchen table, basking in a ray of sunlight, sat the most magnificent chocolate cookie Oggy had ever laid eyes on. It was huge, perfectly round, and studded with countless gooey melted chocolate chips. It was a masterpiece. Oggy's heart swelled with joy. He tiptoed closer, leaned in, and whispered with pure adoration, "My smart cookie." This wasn't just any treat. This was an event, a holiday. He carefully poured a tall glass of cold milk, placing it just so beside the plate. He sat down, ready to savor this moment, to take each bite slowly and make it last forever. But as any fan of Oggy knows, peace is a fragile thing in his house. Just as he was about to take his first glorious bite, a tiny shadow moved behind the cupboard. Then another, and another. From their hiding spot emerged three familiar figures. The mischievous Cockroach brothers, Marky, Dee Dee, and Joey. Their antennae twitched, and their eyes sparkled with greed as they spotted the glorious cookie. Dee Dee, the hungriest of the three, couldn't contain himself and shouted, "Cookie!" Marky let out a high-pitched cackle, while Joey, the mastermind, rubbed his little hands together. A wicked plan already forming in his mind. Working in perfect silent unison, they grabbed a long spoon from a drawer. They stealthily crept up to the table and began to push the giant cookie towards the edge. Inch by inch, the plate teetered. Oggy, lost in his happy thoughts, was completely oblivious. Just as the cookie was about to slide off, Oggy turned his head. His eyes went wide with fury. "Hey!" he roared, leaping from his chair to save his precious dessert. But in his haste, his foot landed squarely on a banana peel left carelessly on the floor. It was chaos. Oggy shot forward like a blue blur, but not towards the table. He slipped, flailed his arms wildly, and crashed headfirst into the refrigerator with a loud clang. It bounced off a chair, hit a stray roller skate, and shot across the kitchen floor, evading everyone. The kitchen instantly transformed into a battlefield. Oggy, now covered in egg yolk, scrambled to his feet and gave chase. The cockroaches scurried around his legs, laughing hysterically as he slipped and slid on the slick floor, crashing into cabinets and sending pots and pans clattering everywhere. The runaway cookie, meanwhile, seemed to have a mind of its own. It rolled out of the kitchen and into the living room, picking up speed as it went downhill on a rumpled rug. It dodged a lamp, zipped under the sofa, and then, in a fateful turn of events, bumped directly into the open door of the washing machine. Before anyone could react, the cookie tumbled inside. With a heavy thud, the door slammed shut, and with a series of beeps and whirs, the machine roared to life. The spin cycle began, shaking the entire room. Oggy froze, his face a mask of pure horror. "My cookie!" he cried out, his voice filled with despair. He ran to the machine and pressed all the buttons, but it was no use. The cockroaches, for their part, also stopped dead in their tracks. They stared at the rattling machine, a rare moment of silence falling over them. This was beyond even their wildest plans. The spinning, the sloshing, the rumbling, it went on for what felt like an eternity. Then, as suddenly as it started, the washing machine stopped. A final, gentle chime echoed through the silent house. Oggy held his breath. He slowly, hesitantly, reached for the handle and pulled the door open. A cloud of warm, clean-smelling steam billowed out. And there, sitting in the middle of the drum, was the cookie. But it was different. It looked softer, fluffier, and unbelievably clean. Oggy reached in to retrieve it, his hopes soaring once more. But before his paw could touch it, something incredible happened. The cookie wiggled. Then it sprouted tiny arms and legs. It hopped right out of the washing machine, landed gracefully on the floor, and did a little jig. To the utter shock of Oggy and the cockroaches, the cookie struck a pose, pointed a chocolate chip finger at them, and in a cheerful voice, shouted, "Catch me if you can." And with that, it took off running. For a moment, everyone was too stunned to move. Then, a collective scream erupted from Oggy and the cockroaches. They looked at each other, their rivalry forgotten in the face of this impossible magical event. And then, the chase began anew. The living cookie was faster and more agile than they could have imagined. It dashed around the house, creating a whole new level of mayhem. It jumped onto bookshelves, scattering books everywhere. It bounced off lampshades like a trampoline. It slid under carpets, leaving a little lump that moved across the floor. Oggy, desperate and clumsy, slipped on a freshly polished floor, skidding into a wall. The cockroaches, though just as bewildered, couldn't help but laugh at his misfortune, their giggles echoing as they tried to corner the sprinting snack. This wild, unbelievable chase went on for minutes. Finally, exhausted, the living smart cookie climbed back onto the kitchen table, raised its tiny arms, and shouted, "Stop!" In that single moment, the entire house fell silent. Oggy, panting, froze mid-stride. The cockroaches perched on a countertop stopped their chattering. Everyone stared at the cookie. It looked at Oggy, then at the cockroaches, and its chocolate chip face softened into a kind expression. In a surprisingly wise voice, it spoke. "Fighting over food is not very smart, you know," it said. "There's no need for all this chasing and crashing." Oggy, scratching his head in confusion, mumbled, "But, you're my cookie." Dee Dee, Marky, and Joey immediately started shouting, "No, it's ours. We saw it first." The cookie just smiled. Then, it did something truly remarkable. With a gentle twist, it broke itself into 4 perfectly equal pieces. One piece gracefully floated over to Oggy. The other 3 pieces floated over to Marky, Dee Dee, and Joey. They all looked at their piece of cookie, then at each other. There was no more yelling, no more chasing. Slowly, they all sat down. Oggy took a small bite of his piece. The cockroaches nibbled on theirs. A shared look of surprise and delight passed between them. The cookie was delicious, perhaps even more delicious now. A quiet understanding filled the room. Just as the last crumbs were being happily eaten, the doorbell rang, shattering the tranquil moment. Ding-dong! Oggy jumped, startled. He opened the door to find his cousin Jack, a big green cat with a perpetually cheerful grin. "Hey, Oggy," Jack said, sniffing the air. "I could swear I smelled cookies all the way from my house." Oggy looked back at the empty plates and the smiling cockroaches and laughed nervously. "Oh, sorry, Jack," he said. "You just missed it. All gone." Jack shrugged his shoulders, said, "Oh well, next time," and walked away. Oggy closed the door, a real smile on his face. But as soon as the latch clicked, a bucket of water, precariously balanced on top of the doorframe, tipped over and drenched him completely. Splash! Oggy stood there, dripping and sputtering, as the 3 cockroaches exploded with laughter.